This is a tricky and difficult and sensitive element to talk about within the framework of spiritual consciousness ideas and so on. Nonetheless, it must be talked about because of, well, people need to know what they're dealing with, okay? Like, I remember when I first wrote Puzzling People and got out there and says that they're psychopathic children. I was, some people were like, how dare you? All children are born innocent and pure. I had one truther on the skunk who set himself up as a protector of children come up to me in the Middleton Arena at an event in Manchester and say to me in 2012, "You cunt! How dare you say some children are born evil?" Now, we had a case really recently in Ireland where a young girl was murdered by two boys, and it was, if you read the statement, the statement analysis and the things they said in court, it's absolutely bone chilling. Where one of them was a primary predator psychopath and the other one was a secondary psychopath. It was the classic, Moira Hindley, Ian Brady type situation. Eventually, the proto becomes as bad as the primary, and it's very interesting language to watch. But they were born that way. Well, one was born that way. One probably would have had a chance if it never came into the sphere of influence of the other. That's not what this video is about. This video is about negative entities. You can call them demons, you can call them dark fairies, you can call them jinns, you can call them archons, you can call them whatever you want, okay? And all that is a cultural name to frame the phenomena. It's not necessarily, you see, you read a lot of the books on demonology and other things, and there's all sorts of categories and hierarchies. And while just like in nature, there's animals who live in trees, animals who live on the ground, animals who hunt, animals who are parasites. In the world of spiritual wildlife and beyond the veil, beyond the fringes, the same things exist. There's the specialization within that world. Now, we just give them these names, and we have to also be careful because by being like, you have this whole thing around the archons, reptilians. What you're doing is actually charging them. You're actually charging them and giving them more power in this reality. You should like say, oh, the attitude should be like you look at animals in the wild and you say, oh, that's interesting, and you walk away. That's your attitude towards them, not, terror and fear and waiting for them to come and get you, this kind of thing. But they do come and get us sometimes. And I'm going to give you an example. And this is pertaining again from the opening to children. Okay? These mothers who use their children as a weapon or as a Munchausen type freak, the Norma and Norman Bates type relationship between a mother and usually a son. It's always a son, though there are girls, and I'll use that as well. Those of us look on at people who would do things like this aghast of how they would actually disregard all notions of parental care, protection, and uh, you know security in a psychic open sense of their child in order to feed a psychiatric condition or an element of their personality whereby the child is essentially a device or object in order to serve the ego of the parent, usually a mother. And we're talking about stage mom types. That's the most common thing of this. Now, these women are infected. You can call it Munchausen's by proxy. You can call it erotomania. You can call it borderline personality. You can call them bunny boilers. They're infected, okay? And they, just like they'll use their sexual organs to get what they want, just like they will use their love bombing and superficial mind games and all kinds of other things to get what they want, by fuck, they'll use their child as well, and their children. And it's a weird kind of, when it's the mother and son thing, it almost has an incestuous, weird creepiness about it at times. Although it generally never goes that place. But it's the whole Norman Bates thing, a boy's best friend and his mother. Now, This has become into the mainstream in a big way in recent times. With this kid, Desmond is amazing, the drag queen kid. Now you look at that child and you look at that kid's face and you tell me that that kid is in control of its destiny. It's like this in every photograph. Have you noticed that? There's no kinetic energy in the face. The big wig, the makeup, the lips, the contouring on the makeup, and the fabulous Desmond is amazing. And the child is like this. Like, if you notice that, it's fucking bizarre. The child is clearly not in there. Now, what's in there is and you'll often note that, and even if the kids seem together, they tend to have that look about them. Honey Boo Boo, remember her? That's a female version of one. But the child seems drugged. The child is not drugged. The child's consciousness has been replaced by an entity that the mother's exploitation of the child has placed into the kid. That's why there's a sense of something not right there. Even if the kid seems highly functional, there's a sense of, you look, this, and it's always this mother in the background who exploits the child for their own benefit. It's a non-violent or a non-physically abusive form of Munchausen. Now, the mother, in the case of the Desmond is Amazing thing, you see that also with Greta Thunberg. Again, when she was in the fucking UN, it was like a demon. It was like she was like a fucking Lord of the Rings orc. You have taken my dreams. It was like that. An entity is in there. There's something gone. The child is gone. Whether it happens in the womb when the mother is coked up or something like that, or drinking heavy, I don't know, but it's something not right there. Then the parent overcompensates, nearly always the mother, by making a public spectacle of the child for all eternity in order to feed the mother's ego. Because the mother has been infected by a primary entity, and that primary entity needs to infect another human. Now, what's the nearest thing to that? The child. Okay? Now, how does that happen? Children are extremely vulnerable to possession, especially a child who grows up in a house where there's no strong father figure. That's a big problem. You'll see that with girls, or a weak male father figure. You'll see that with girls who are, and you'll often find that these women, they target weak men. They end up in relationships with weak men, and they hate nothing more than a strong man who says, hold on a second, I'm not dealing with that. They want weak, broken men around them. Men often have addiction problems, psychiatric issues, things like this. This will be, this is not going to interfere. The entity is not going to be bothered by a strong male figure around them saying, hold on, this is wrong. You shouldn't be dressing your son up in drag. If they are divorced, the mother will do this to torture and the entity in the mother to harvest energy out of the father by saying, your son's a drag queen now. And he's going, what? He's 5. No, he's fabulous. He's a drag queen. I send him off to school in dresses. My 5-year-old son. You homophobe! Don't you do anything about it, you transgender hater! This is what's going on. This is why every single queer I know is absolutely disgusted by this Desmond is Amazing agenda, or little boys holding up signs with their, I'm going to have a period when I'm 12 signs that the mother gave them. It's white, suburban, Munchausen, liberal mothers who are doing this because they are infected. They are infected by entities that could take complete control over them. Now you say, people say, well, how does someone get infected by an entity? There's lots of reasons. There's lots of ways of it happening, okay? You're surrounded by them, okay? And I'm not saying this to have you in a state of terror, but you're surrounded by them, okay? And they're always looking for opportunities to break through the veil and to get into people. And that's why they love people have drug problems, alcoholism especially, the demons, the jinn, heavy stoners, big time stoners. I'm not talking about people who have a drink, or people who have ever taken drugs. I'm talking about people who have really don't have good stewardship of their consciousness in these states, and they hang around in cinemas. Perfect place to feed. You're watching a horror film, go or an emotional film where there's a love story and you're releasing all this energy, and there's an empty seat beside you is not so empty after all. Not so empty after all. They're everywhere, okay? They're always looking for an opportunity. Everything in nature this requires an energy source, okay? And their energy source is human emotions. Human emotions released through, the more intense they are, the better. So the mother is infected by a primary entity. She exploits her child some way, dressing him up as a drag queen, this kind of thing. The child is put out on stage. The media, who are full of affected lunatics, are all talking about how wonderful this is. Normal people are repulsed by a mother who would actually use a child to get back at someone else, or to get energy to feed their own behavior, mental illness, infection. All that revulsion when we see those little kids as fabulous drag queens, and there's clearly, obviously, something wrong with the child. That revulsion is sucked in by the secondary entity that's now moved into the drag queen 9-year-old. This is how it's working. There is a battle for the human soul going on. It's been taking place very quickly in the last few years. Do you remember that thing, the 99 moon cycle that I told you about? When that 99 moon cycle ended, the gates were opened. It's happening again. And this is a full-scale invasion. There's not a sane person on this earth who can look at a mother publicly exploiting their own child for their own ego and say to themselves, that is admirable behavior. That is normal behavior. That is the behavior of a demented cunt. That's what that is. A demented, psychotic cunt. Not a human being, not a fucking mother, and certainly not a parent. And always, where is the father? Well, no sane man wants to be with a woman who would dress her child up as a drag queen. So he's either a lunatic, a drug addict, a failure, or he's not around. Or a cuckold who goes, yes dear, no dear, 3 bags full dear. Those types, okay? This is what's going on, and we have to be very careful when we see this kid on the screen and to see this Desmond thing, that we try to maintain. And people say, how will we stop all these things, like parents getting their child to hold up a little sign, a baby, an infant holding a sign up and saying, boys have periods too. Or the case in America where the mother was dressing the boy up in dresses to punish the father. The best thing of all is to turn the revulsion at the mother. Don't concentrate on the child. Greta Thunberg is hiding behind her daughter. Desmond's amazing mother is hiding behind her son's makeup. You see what I mean? The exploitative mother is hiding behind the child. Do not focus your hatreds, your revulsion, your disgust on the child. The child's psychic defenses had been destroyed by the mother. The entities came flying in, and the child is now a kind of a hybrid of what the child was and what the child isn't, and what's controlling it. The more you look at the child and go, fuck, this is horrible, this is disgusting, and you're allowed to do that for a while, the entity inside it only gets stronger. Only gets stronger. And it deflects from the primary entity in the exploitive stage mother. that only gets more psychic food because the direction is at the child. And the mother puts the child in public as part of this Munchausen, this non-physical Munchausen thing, for that purpose. Primary infected, secondary infected. The child is innocent, the mother is not. Because at some point, the mother welcomed this. There is not a single parent on earth who loves and cares their child that would never shove them in front of the world as part of some kind of freak show. Not one. It is an instant sign of a lunatic, an infected nutcase, okay? They have no credibility from that second on. They have failed as a parent. They have failed as a mother. They have failed as a human being. And they have failed in every aspect of civilization and human life and decency. From that point on, they are pariahs. They have no other function on this planet other than to be seen that way. It's the only chance the child has of liberation from the entity inside it. It's that dark, it's that poisonous. And they know this. This comes from the Abrahamic thing. Suffer little children. Why do you think there are 800 babies in a septic tank in Tuam, County Galway? Why do we hear all these stories of Magdalene laundries and babies being removed from their mothers? And they were all young girls, by the way, that went in there. Why do we always hear about children growing up in Abrahamic family? My father, he used to push scripture at me all the time. And the children, you see those children in the Middle East with holding the Quran and dynamite all around them. Infection. Infection, infection, infection. And in every case, a parent. Now you could say to yourself, in the case of like the Middle East, or say an extreme Orthodox sect, that these women have no power. Yes, there's an element of truth to that. But how a mother, and you've seen them bashing her, when you see, like, we've all seen those awful videos of the kids in Iran, who the first wave of human bombs, who were sent off to blow themselves up in front of Iraqi troops during the Iraq-Iran war back in the 80s, and the mothers all going, and banging their heads, the prophet, light that their son are blown to bits. Infection, jinns there. There's no difference between a child being given a suicide belt by his mother and she going, my son will die for the prophet. And Desmond's amazing mother sticking that kid on the camera like that. It's the same thing. It's harvesting energy for an entity inside both of them. That's what that is. That's what you're dealing with. And I cannot understand how anyone could justify it on any level. Because it's not justifiable. It's not justifiable. If any of my friends, and I've got transgender family members, if I saw them pushing the Desmond is Amazing thing, they are instantly out of my life. And don't give me this thing that kids know they're not. Yes, I know there are kids who are born who feel gay from an early age. But not from... Look, a 9-year-old doesn't even know who their favourite fucking superhero is. A 5-year-old doesn't know what their favourite dinosaur is. The plastic dinosaur in that box of plastic dinosaur toys. But their infected mothers and cuckold parents, or absent nowhere fathers, are perfectly happy, in many cases, telling the child he's going to have a period when he grows up, or having him wear dresses so the mother and the father can be superstars at the local school. Showing up, we're so amazingly liberal, our child is a girl, is no gender. This kind, and you see them and you see these people and they have that catatonic cult-like smile. The big smile, the big fucking smile, always look out for the forced fucking smile in anyone like that. Always look out for that. That's a mask. That's a mask of something very dark behind there. Normal people don't have endless pictures of this fake fucking superficial smile. We, again, the Abrahamics are, there's no difference again. You know, these Christians are saying, I'm disgusted about Desmond. Well, look at the history. That's where that comes from, okay? Uh, there's no excuse for this. None. I I am not, from a religious viewpoint, I can't fucking stomach religious morality. It's disgusting. I can't stomach that kind of thing. But I know when I'm the most liberal, open-minded person in the world. I've got loads of fucking freaks and gay friends and all kinds of things, and I love them all. They're all wonderful, and they love me. But they're adults. They're adults who made their own choice. The child will always be the target of the entity. Because when we see a child in drag dancing on a stage with men half naked throwing money at them, it triggers something in us. It triggers something in us that this is profoundly wrong. When you hear about women who are in the custody battles telling their son, say your father molested you, that's not a human being who would do that. That's an entity inside that woman. And women are easily infected because what happens is they would become, and those kinds of women become easily infected because their relationships are never stable. Always look out for that. Where is the husband? Where is the long-term boyfriend? How come there's never any photographs of her and her girlfriend online? It always seems to be family. You ever notice that? Always look out. Or the golden child, this kind of thing. You must never trust these types because there's an extension. There's a point where love runs out and exploitation comes in. Okay, and for a parent to cross that line between love to exploitation, whether it's a father who's like the kind of like, my son is going to play for Man United and get out there, son, and play. And when the kid comes back from the trial and finds out that he can't play for anybody, the father goes, fucking failure. After he's been down the pub going, my son is going to be the next Roy Keane or George Best. Those types, right? That Honey Boo Boo's mother, Desmond's mother, it's not bad parenting. It's good possession.